start the recording. And my name's Michael Mitchell, and welcome to everybody who's here. And I'll hand over to Mandy.
Hi, Michael. So welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for making the time to be here tonight. And we hope that this discussion will contribute to a library for the Australian Student Christian Movement of Zoom productions which people can click onto at their leisure. So thank you. Can I first acknowledge that I am sitting on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and pay my respects to the elders, past and present, and to their emerging leaders. Now I asked Paudie, welcome. I asked Paudie would he begin by leading us in the litany, which he shared as part of the very, very recent virtual General Assembly of WSCF, where there were 75 voting members from around the world in different countries, 75 countries. Paudie, would you lead us, please?
Good day, my brothers and sisters in Christ. The response to the litany is, grant us your living waters.
Grant us your living waters.
Out of the desert depths, we cry to you, O Lord. Grant us
your living waters.
Your living waters. Let our mouths be full of your praise. Grant us your living waters. Every day we will do your will in the world. Grant us your living waters. Awesome deeds we will do in your holy name. Grant us your living waters. And when we are still, we will know that you are God. Grant us
your living waters.
You will give us the power to end war and violence.
Grant us
your living waters. Fill us with joy when we are helping others.
Grant us
your living waters. Invigorate our minds and help us to reach out for answers. Grant us your living waters. Let us in positions of strength see your will and do it.
Grant us your living
waters. Death, where is your sting? For the Lord is eternally with us. Grant us your living waters. God, our Creator, you have given us work to do and call us to use our talents for the good of all. Guide us as we work and teach us to live in the Spirit who made us, your sons and daughters, in the love that made us sisters and brothers, through Jesus Christ, our Saviour and Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Paudie. Special thanks to Paudie, Marta and Dany for making the time to be with us tonight. It's been my pleasure and joy to work with each of them on the Constitutional Commission of WSCF for the last 12 to 18 months. And can I say briefly that Paudie is from Ireland and Marta from Italy, and they are both present members of the Executive Committee of WSCF representing Europe. And Dany is from Beirut in Lebanon and is an outgoing EXCO member. But I would like each of them to tell us a little bit about their life and their faith journey and what difference SCM has made to it. So we'll have a bit of a conversation. And can I, so I think Marta, we might start with you. Can you tell us a little? We've got limited time and we hope to have a bit of conversation as well, but in a nutshell, Marta.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Mandy. I grew up in a Christian family. So for me, because of some peculiar historical reasons, my belonging to a Christian church was very much connected also to being part of a minority church and a population kind of folk. And because
Reformed church, right? Reformed tradition.
Yes, I belong to the Valdensian Church, which is a church It's a very ancient church in the south of France and the north of Italy, which has been persecuted for until 1848. And unfortunately, these tensions and segregation, which was experienced by the people belonging to my church, is something that is still influencing even the geography, for example, because Valdensians used to be living in a kind of a ghetto up in the mountains, like, for example, where I'm now, in the very north of Italy on the border to France. And so here, Valdensians are almost a majority in some of the little towns, even today, still today. And for my grandparents' generation, it was still very hard to imagine to marry, for example, a Catholic person. It was still very, very, very strong. And now it's changed. And but yeah, just to let you know that my belonging to one Christian community is very much connected also to history and belonging to one population, if I can describe it like this. So yeah, all my family is very much having this sense of belonging to this community. And that's how I grew up. And my parents decided not to baptize me when I was a child. This is something which many people decide to do in our churches. So I was baptized when I was 17. And for me, it was something like kind of very natural, because it's like, as I said, it's very much part of the family tradition. But yeah, I had a very, very strong process, like to and I had to really understand if my being a Christian was just because it's where I grew up and it's something so natural, or if it was something that I really believed, and it was something that before deciding to baptize, I really accepted and acknowledged, and so this is how then I became myself a baptized member of this big family. And yes, and I was active in the Italian SCM as a teenager already, which was a very important experience for me, because the Italian SCM is a national movement. And while I grew up in this very Valdensian Protestant in the Italian SCM, there are also other young people from different parts of Italy, because meanwhile, of course, there are Valdensian people and Protestants all over Italy. And our Italian movement is composed by Valdensians, also Methodists and Baptists. So it was a way for me, a first way to experience ecumenism, and also to see that there were some other young people who are Protestant and who grew up in very different parts of Italy, where being a minority was even more difficult, because they really were a minority, while I was a minority in my country, of course, but not in the area where I was born. So for me, it was a very, very important experience, like to understand also a bit more of what it is to be a Protestant in Italy. So yeah, I will not say more. Maybe later we can discuss further.
Okay, thank you, Marta. Paudie, over to you. Can you tell us a little bit of your background?
Yeah, well, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I'm still Roman Catholic for the most part. Although there might be some people out in the world who might disagree with that. I'm practicing, but in Ireland, obviously, there's the issue with, well, Roman Catholics in Ireland have been through a lot, obviously, with the numerous scandals in the church here, and the culture in Ireland has changed pretty drastically, and so it is, for one of my generation, it is a bit of an abnormality to be still a practicing Roman Catholic. When I was younger, I was caught up by an arch conservative group called the Society of Pius X, but I left that for numerous personal reasons. Coming out then when I was 21 meant that the nature of my faith changed drastically as well. I had to basically bring together those two sides of myself. And then studying theology, I've been studying the Jesuit Henri de Lubac now for about 10 years. My PhD has taken quite a while because of the nature of the work. It's so massive. And yeah, it's been one hell of a journey, and if you'll pardon my language. And basically what WSCF did for me was that doing a PhD in theology on such a very narrow Roman Catholic subject, it can be quite isolating. And so it was WSCF created a sense of community for me again, a sense of belonging once again. It was,
Paudie. And are you studying at the Irish School of Ecumenics?
Yeah, I'm studying the Irish School of Ecumenics, which was it was born in a sense out of the troubles in Northern Ireland, and trying to bring together the two communities ecumenically, because, well, the disparate churches on the island weren't really doing enough in the sense to reach out to their fellow Christians for numerous different reasons, most of it political, really. Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty reason for ecumenical action, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Paudie. All right, Dany, where are you? Oh, there you are. Dany, welcome. So Dany, thank you for making the time, and you probably had to leave church early to get here. Thank you for that. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your faith journey, and what contribution WSCF has made to that?
Oh, yes, first, thank you very much for being able to be with you today. Well, actually, I'm from the Greek Orthodox Church of Lebanon. My parents are from this church. I was baptized when I was very, very young. I had the chance to be in a Catholic school with the Jesuits, and since always I knew that there were different Christians, different prayers, different ways they wear their clothes, different liturgies. So I was used to the diversity. I didn't understand much why it was there. I didn't understand how we can take advantage from these two, but I knew 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. But I always knew that that there are many. There are many how to say translation of Jesus, or traduction of. There are many ways we translate Jesus on earth. I also it was a French school, so I also had to study the Bible in French as well, and I had to see that sometimes the translation between Arabic and French was not the same. So I got used to the diversity since I was very young. Then I had to be more and more in the Orthodox Church, SCM, the Greek Orthodox Youth Movement. And then I understood, and from there I went to WSCF. This is how I knew that. Well, yes, people are diverse. We have many Christians around. They pray differently. They behave differently. They have different ideas, and it's a place where, like WSCF, where we can put all these together. Where the diversity doesn't mean that we have to fight with each other. On the contrary, it's a diversity that we have to take advantage from, and that we can use. And you know that I studied agriculture, so diversity is important there. So I could work more on diversity as well, understand more diversity. And through WSCF, I'm through the usual, the typical work of WSCF that I'm doing, like being in the Exco, being in the Constitution Commission, etc., etc. I went also to Eco Justice. It was a place where I can combine my studies, agriculture and environment, and also ecumenical and Christianity that I like. And I went to Eco Justice, and I'm now with the Middle East Council of Churches, or with the WCC, in some climate change groups where, in French, we say joindre l'utile à l'agréable. I'm putting together things that I like and things that I'm good at. And yes, this is in brief how I'm.
And Dany, you're a lecturer at the university as well, is that right?
Yes. I had a PhD. I made a PhD in France in 2006, and since 2007, I'm teaching in the Lebanese University Faculty of Agriculture. I'm teaching different lectures, mainly things related to ecology and also beekeeping. I'm a beekeeper myself.
Right, thank you. So can we ask any of our SCM friends any questions or comments or thoughts?
Yes, I interestingly enough, all of these three countries that our friends are from, I visited and had friends in the SCMs of all of those countries in the early 70s when I was a frontier intern. Probably people don't know what a frontier intern is, but it was a person funded by the United Presbyterian Church of the USA to work on the frontiers of social justice. And I was in London at the Europe Africa project, and we went every year to the Agape Center in Torino and to the Europe Africa Students Conference. I don't know whether those conferences are still going or not, but they were very significant on my thinking. You know, I went there to work with people on the racism issue, having been involved in the anti-apartheid movement in Australia, but got involved with the Portuguese colonies, and all the people used to go to this small town in northern Italy. Now, is that centre still going? Is it?
Yes, it is, definitely. It's very close to here. It's just the other side of the mountain.
Really?
And I know that they have, yeah, it is. It's still a very important ecumenical center where, yeah, 2 years ago, I attended the so-called International Theological Camp.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's
Wonderful.
And, you know, and I'm very aware of the importance of the Waldensian Church. Now, I'll tell you one friend I had there, I don't know, I've lost complete contact with him and I don't know if he's still around. Mario Miegi, would you know him by any chance?
Marta,
Mario Miegi.
Mario
Miegi. Yes.
you know him?
Yes.
I know him. Yes, he's a kind of important.
He was a very significant person in the Italian SCM, and
yeah,
you know, wrote a couple of issues of the student world for the WSCF. He was. So that's interesting. That I don't want to take up too much of people's time, but I spent Christmas in Dublin once with the SCM of Ireland. And I'm sorry to say, I can't remember the names of the people there. This is terrible. And I also spent some time in Beirut in its good days, when Beirut was a lovely Mediterranean tourist resort. And the two people there that I remember are Gabi Habib, who's very well known, and Elias Khoury.
Yes.
Dany, do you know?
Still around?
Yes, they are. Both still alive. Gabi is in the States now, And Elias is a very important writer. He has plenty of good books, novels.
Wonderful.
Oh, really?
Well,
Because I know Gabby Habib married one of my fellow frontier interns, an American. And
Well, there
he
you
is
go.
actually my Facebook friend, but he never replies to messages.
well, you'll have to tell each of those people that Dr. Helen Hill from Australia, now working in East Timor, remembered them and asked to be remembered too. Is that right, Helen?
That's yes. That's yes. Thank you so much.
Well, I think that in many ways, the friendships that we form are really such an important part of what WSCF is all about. So it's interesting, Helen, that you mentioned that, and people who influence us for decades to come sometimes. I don't know if anyone would like to think about it. Michael.
Yeah, I was actually going to comment on that. And it's actually a question that I had for Paudie, but I guess it's a question for all of you. I just noticed, Paudie, you referred to WSCF as your community, which interested me, and I think it interests all of us, because WSCF has been our community, not necessarily just the SCMs in our country. And I just wondered why you mentioned WSCF as your community and not the SCM of Ireland, and the same for the others. Yep. Paudie? You're on mute. Yep.
SCM Ireland was a long time ago much larger than it is now. When a lot of the driving force, a lot of the spiritus of SCM Ireland was working on the Troubles in Northern Ireland. So when peace came to Northern Ireland,
Yes.
a lot of its purpose faded away, and now there's very few numbers in SCM Ireland at the moment. So when I say I could call them family rather than community, you know. So WSCF being so broad and it being more, the ages being more similar, makes it more like community.
Okay, thank you. And can you tell us, any of you, in your region of WSCF, what would be some of the achievements you think WSCF has had in recent years? Because we've got two of you from Europe and one from the Middle East. What would you see of some significant things that WSCF has been able to do in recent years? Marta, I know you were very busy with the human rights program. Was it last year or the year before there in Europe, WSCF Europe?
It was last year. We organized a week. Really, I think
a bit,
the achievements.
Yeah, you might need to look straight ahead. I think.
Sorry for that, because it's.
That's
can
better.
You hear me now?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Better. Yeah, sorry. I think the connection is not the best here in this little village in the mountains. But yeah, so I think some of the biggest achievements have been on the side of fighting for rights and equality and anti-discrimination. I think this is what the WSCF Europe has been focusing a lot. Also, we are with the Council of Europe. So we are able to organize some study sessions in some of the youth centers of this huge international organization, which is the Council of Europe. Like the last one, which had some difficulties due to the pandemic, but it was supposed to be on youth extremism, for example. And before there was another one on gender. So I think it's a lot on rights, and also the winter school mentioned by by Mandy was an advocacy for human rights in the 21st century, and Christianity and advocacy for human rights. Yes. So yeah, that's what I would say.
And
I mean,
Marta,
everything it gets everything a bit far.
and Marta, you're trained as a lawyer?
So I forgot to introduce myself. Yes, actually, yes, I am. I'm a law graduate, and I'm currently working in Brussels, but I will move to Strasbourg next month. So I'm a bit, traveling around Europe. Yeah.
And you're taking up a traineeship with the Council of Europe.
Yes.
And what will you be doing?
So I will be working at the Directorate for Anti-Discrimination, which is really
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. Okay. Dany, we hear that Beirut is really tough at this time. There's social and economic and political crisis. So in the midst of all that, and the whole Middle East, from where we sit in Australia, seems to be in the midst of turmoil, dynamism, and great difficulty. So in the midst of all that, what sort of things does WSCF do in the Middle East? How do you make a difference?
Well, the usual answer, the first answer that we usually say, though we live in a very diverse region. I mean, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, Sudan. This is the MENA region where WSCF Middle East works. Though it's really diverse, we have a lot of extremism on all levels. When things go wrong, people go to extremism. And unfortunately, though we are very diverse, it's a very extremist. We live in a very extremist era. So, speaking about ecumenism, speaking about diversity, speaking about respecting the other, is an achievement by itself without doing any extra work. So this is how this is the quickest answer that I might have. In addition to all this, you probably know that we had a female regional secretary 12 years ago, and today we have also we had Elsie, and now we had Bina. So having a female on a leader on an important body like WSCF was also is considered as an achievement. As more speaking about other programs that WSCF is following, I think we worked a lot on the interfaith. So we had a lot of work with our brothers and sisters, the Muslims that are living also in this area, and also what's happening with Palestine.
Mm.
A lot of work was done there. So unfortunately, when if we say for achievements, we might believe that we didn't do a lot because of all the needs that are in this area. I mean, you mentioned Beirut as where I live, and we have all these problems and some more. But let us remind us that we had also Syria, who lived in hell since 2011. Palestine, it's never ending problems and situation. Jordan is more or less acceptable. Iraq, and what happened in Baghdad, Egypt had big problems all these years, and finally Sudan. So whenever we have a Middle East a program, it's not difficult to find to whom we have to pray. It's it's a usual thing. Where all the time we had plenty of, so we live with all these problems. We have we have to work a lot on this, and also keep each other in prayers, because this is something that we should be doing.
Yeah. Comments, friends. Marion. You're on mute, my dear.
Yes. Shout out from one beekeeper to another. So nice to see a beekeeper in such a distant place, and I don't really have anything to contribute except just so lovely to hear everybody's stories of such community across such difference.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yes, Dany, Marion really does keep bees. And
yes, I do.
he signs his name, Obeid, B-E-E-D. Do you keep bees, Dany?
Sorry?
Do you keep bees, real bees?
Yes.
Oh, so Marion picked that up right. Okay, you, one beekeeper to another. That's good. Well, that makes sense with eco-justice, doesn't it?
One thing I will say that WSCF does, and it does it almost sometimes without trying, is that it undermines stereotypes constantly. It's this idea that Christians are, that they're anti-science, and that Christians don't believe in climate change. WSCF comes in and it says, look, we've been working on this for a very long time. This idea that Christians are somehow anti-equal marriage or are bigoted in some way. WSCF shows that it has been working on gender issues and sexuality issues for a very long time. When you think of sometimes communities here say to me that they're afraid that the Catholics coming from the developing world are going to be all arch conservatives, and that they're going to change their communities in a big way. WSCF can show them there are contacts with Africa or with parts of Latin America, and show that these people aren't all like that, so that is one of the most important things that WSCF does, and it is something that requires constant maintenance. You have to keep it up always, but it's not necessarily the big program thing of the year or the new flashy thing of the year, but it is very important.
So I think one thing that has saved us all and why we're all hanging in there, frankly, because somehow WSCF helped get beyond platitudes and superficial understandings and led us into a deeper engagement in the depths and the riches of the faith. So I think that's very, very inspiring. Yeah. Any comments, anyone? Or questions?
Yeah. I'll just echo that, Paudie. We have similar coming out and being gay and Christian stories that I went through as part of my journey with SCM. But what was exciting for me was being able to take that journey to WSCF in Asia. And I think David might remember some of my antics at the Christian Conference of Asia internship I did when I stirred the pot, as it were. So we're going back a couple of decades, and I've just been so impressed by WSCF. There are some more conservative SCM movements in Asia that are part of the WSCF, but I've never had any struggles within WSCF as being an out and proud person, and it's a credit to the movement. I think that it can shake those stereotypes, and I think also that's why I asked that question about friendships in WSCF, because I very much value the friendships that I have with people in other countries that are part of the movement, and I've treasured that for many years now, and I continue to have those close friendships.
One important thing that was pointed out to me recently by Clarissa Balan, who Michael and I know as Gigi, is that Michael in the, was it early 90s, Michael, went to the United Nations in the name of WSCF because WSCF has ECOSOC status. And Michael, you did some human rights work on the in the name of WSCF there. Could you say a word or two about that? Marta in particular might find that interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of exciting. They arranged for me to be part of an internship with IDHR, so an NGO that works in Geneva and provides training to people from mostly developing countries, so a lot from Africa. So we had people from Togo and South Africa, and giving them an opportunity to learn how to take up human rights causes in their respective countries, and to be able to take those and give interventions at the United Nations Human Rights Commission. So yeah, there was two of us from Australia. John Wardlaw paid for himself to go, and both of us were able to give interventions, and spoke of, at that stage, East Timor was still under Indonesian occupation, so we raised that as part of our intervention. But you know, people in Philippines being arbitrarily killed, including one SCMer. So yeah, it was an important opportunity for WSCF to actually take advantage of that. We've had it for a while, and we struggled to take advantage of it, and I think we did very well that time.
Yeah, that was Clarissa's point. Clarissa Balan has recently been the co-chair of the search committee for WSCF. She's from the Philippines, and she's a friend of Michael and mine. And she said that, well, Michael was very impressive in trying to make something of that ECOSOC status of WSCF to be a human rights advocate to the UN. So I hope that's something we'll all remember, that WSCF has that status, and if it can be developed in years to come, that might be a very good thing. Anyway, other comments, anyone? David.
I'm interested that we have a Roman Catholic, well, more or less Roman Catholic, who has a few arguments with his own church, and we have a Greek Orthodox speaker who may also have a few arguments with his own church, for all I know. I wonder if you could both say something about both Catholic and Orthodox participation in the WSCF at the moment. How strong is that? How do your churches react to your involvement? Do they think you're flirting with a dangerous bunch of Protestants, addressing an agenda that is not their agenda? What sort of reaction do you get from your own churches to your WSCF involvement?
Before you answer that, we should say, David, you was on the staff of the WCC and General Secretary of the National Council of Churches in Australia, as well as being a national travelling staff person of the ASCM many, many moons ago. Many moons ago,
yes.
Just to start, often, David, what happens is the reverse is true. They're pleased that I am here, but they're pleased for the wrong reason. What do I mean by this? Well, you see, what happens is that obviously in Vatican II there is a document, et Unitatis Redintegratio, which insists that there must be some ecumenical work by the Roman Church. Yeah. But the hierarchy don't want to get involved in it themselves for various political reasons. So they like to farm out the responsibility to somebody else. And they say, well, we don't have to do it. They're doing it over there. So you look over there and stop looking at us because this is someone else is doing it. And that works out very well until you want to have something like a shared Eucharist. And then they step in and say, well, no, you've gone too far. So it's more that you take the responsibility. They look at you and it's like you've taken the responsibility away from them, and they don't have to do it anymore. And you have to insist to them, yes, you're involved in the ecumenical sphere, but they still have to do their bit, you know.
You remember Cardinal Edward many years ago, being in a council meeting in my state. Please experiment. You know, don't wait for us at the top. Go for it, experiment. And more or less suggesting we'll watch and absorb and think about it. And so that was a very interesting approach that I hadn't expected from a top Roman Catholic cleric. But what you're saying, Paudie, gels exactly with that. But of course, it doesn't absolve everybody from responsibility to look at the unity of the church and the whole created world and take action accordingly.
If I may,
Dany.
if I may say, yes, if I may say, it's a bit different in from where I well, yes, my Greek Orthodox movement introduced me to WSCF. So this is how I went there. And to reply, I have to say about 3 different levels, because on the Lebanese level, where we have different movements, we don't have only one SCM in Lebanon. We have affiliated movements. So we have many movements in Lebanon that are affiliated to WSCF. Here, the majority is Catholic. We have also affiliated movement on the region level. The majority is Orthodox, between Greek Orthodox and Copts. So on these two levels, everybody is happy. The Catholics, the Catholics are there, and they are a majority. So things are going in order. On the region level, the Orthodox are majority, and things are in order. When we go to the international level, where we have to be voting, where we have to address some issues, some controversial issues, here things are not always at their best, and we have a lot of discussions. As for the opinion of the church of what we are doing, sometimes they are happy we are making some activities where we are meeting others. But as I was saying, when it's coming, when we are defending, for example, we have an appeal for what's happening in Palestine, they are quite okay with it, or things related to eco-justice or to human rights. But when we go to some controversial issues, it is not easy. We are still living in a very the culture is different. I mean, if we're speaking, for example, homosexuality is still a topic that is really controversial, and it's not something that we can discuss easily and or have an appeal on this topic. It's taking a lot of time. Personally, I understand that there are things that are culturally different, and that we have to respect that people still have different opinions about one topic or another. But I'm sure that many. And I don't want to generalize here, because even all the churches, not all the priests, all the responsible churches have the same opinion. But many of them are valuing the work of WSCF here and there. As far as we are not really going very far in some controversial issues.
Any comment, Marion? Helen. Helen, can I call on you? Helen, could I call on you? You have to leave soon. Where's Helen?
Sorry, yes, unfortunately I do. We have an English language service starting here at 5 o'clock, which is in about 12 minutes. So so you want me to comment on what? On the...
Oh, just anything you'd like to say. By the way,
right.
I don't think Paudie
I'll just make the quick question. This is more to the Australians, but as many of you know, Paulo Freire was born 100 years ago in September, September the 18th, I think, and in Timor there's going to be a celebration of his centenary. I'm trying to make contact with the people, and as a frontier intern, we did our orientation with Paulo Freire in Geneva when he worked at the World Council of Churches. And I went back there twice because I was in Europe. So when he came to Australia, I got allowed into his conference because he recognised me, even though I hadn't been invited. So I'm wanting to make contact with some of those people that were involved in inviting Paulo Freire to Australia, or people from other countries, you know, particularly the Portuguese-speaking countries, because the Timorese are particularly interested in this. And I've just been asking Levy if we can possibly Zoom this event. So we might have a bit of a Zoom conference coming from Timor on the Friday and Saturday, I think 17th and 18th of September, I think it is, roughly around about then.
Well, please,
so if you know of anyone,
so we can do our best to publicise them. So let
yes,
Mike
once it gets, yes, good.
Well, we wish you every blessing with that, and how amazing to know that you're one of Paulo Freire's students. That does seem amazing.
That's right.
So every blessing with that, and we're sorry you have to leave early, Helen, we understand.
Yes, so I will, and good luck to our friends in Ireland and Italy and Lebanon. It's very, very, very good to see you there and remember my time. Just, a comment on Ireland. Yes, I remember the name of one of the people in the Irish SCM. His name was Porrick Raymond. He was a Catholic, and he later became a Protestant and became the Secretary General of the World Alliance of Reformed Churches, no less, influenced by the WSCF, very much influenced by the WSCF. I don't know, do you know him or did you?
I know the name, Helen, but I've not met them.
Oh, lovely.
Ah, right.
Hearing that. Thank you.
Mm. Anyway, I'd better leave you now and go and sort out a few things in the next room for our students that will be arriving soon. So see you later. Keep going.
Thank you. Bye, Helen. Mary, comment from you.
Paudie, just sorry, but Paudie, I'm intrigued. You're doing a THD, right?
Yes.
What sort of job are you going to get with a THD that says you're an expert in the Catholic Church and its doctrines and church order? Are you hoping for a high position in the Vatican?
No. I want to teach. That's what I want from it. That's
right.
At a third level university, God willing, and I'm reasonably willing to travel with it. But I haven't really thought about a position of leadership in that sense.
Yeah.
So sometimes the middle ground is the best place to be. When you want to really want to bring understanding of the faith to more people, especially when our young people in Ireland are so very alienated from the clergy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marion, I interrupted what you were going to say.
I don't know that I was particularly going to say anything, but I do have a question for Marta, which is that you were talking about the SCM initially being involving people from the Methodist and Baptist traditions as well as Waldensians. I think I understood you correctly. Can you tell us what, this is just my ignorance, what is there much Catholic involvement in the SCM initially, or how does the Italian SCM orient itself towards the Catholic Church?
Thank you, Mariam, for your question. This is yeah, the Italian SCM is a Protestant movement, and the Waldensian and Methodist Church are now a united church. So it's like in Italy are particularly progressive and close to Reformed churches. So that's how we cooperate very well. And there is no involvement of Catholic youth in the movement. Exceptionally, there are some individuals who are interested and join, but yeah, also the dialogue is very, very hard. Unfortunately, ecumenism in Italy is very, very difficult because, of course, a huge majority, and it is, for me, it was the first time I had really the chance to also Catholic, and it was very important for me as an experience, especially like meeting some Catholics who belong authority. I found many similarities and, you know, some common understandings and problems. And in Italy, it is very, very difficult. But I mean, I would say the majority of like the middle Italian person wouldn't even know that between the meaning of being a Christian and being a Catholic. It is very, very, very difficult. And I think also the way that it is told also in the general understanding in the media, in the schools, for example, in Italian schools, Catholic religion is taught, and it's the only religion class which is taught, and the teachers are nominated by bishops, Catholic bishops. So even in schools, there is a bit of a, like, it's a Christianity class, which is a Catholic class kind of. And so yeah, it's very hard. There are some good practices, especially in bigger cities, where some priests start collaborating with some Protestant pastors, and some ways there are changes now with the marriages of Protestant and Catholic couples. There is some progress, and not on a youth level. I've never experienced a real exchange with the Catholic youth, which is in Italy, which is a huge pity and a shame. But this is how it is, and that's for me. WSCF was very, very important. The first time I could even pray with some friends in a Catholic church was for me a very, very emotional moment. I don't know, burden which we're still carrying. Yeah,
I think
thanks
that's
very much.
Yeah, Marion, sorry.
No, I was going to say thanks for that. I think for a lot of us, SCM has brought those kind of first experiences of being able to pray together or join together with people from other kinds of denominations that we've never really had the opportunity to encounter before. But it's the barriers are always kind of different in different places, and thanks very much for explaining about that in your situation.
Can I just ask each of our three guests, Dany, you're outgoing member of the executive committee, is that right, for Middle East? And Paudie and Marta, you're incoming ExCo for Europe, but you've been involved in that role for a few months now. Can you each tell us, what do you see as some of the major basic?
We lost you for a moment there, Mandy. Could you say the last part again?
What do you see as some of the major challenges facing WSCF in the next few years? It's a tough one, isn't it?
It is.
It was very exciting to be part of the virtual General Assembly. Since I'd been part of the advisory committee, I felt the need to stay up from 10 p.m. till 12 p.m. 3 nights running and 12:30, including at the voting at the end, where a new set of officers were elected pretty resoundingly. So I found that incredibly exciting. And new General Secretary Marcelo from Uruguay, it seemed very encouraging, and wonderful singers from Cameroon and goodness knows what, hearing from people from Cuba, from Belarus and all sorts of places. And it was very exciting. So in the midst of that sort of excitement, there are some real issues that need to be grappled with. So what do you three see as some of the significant ones?
In some ways, we're very lucky because the issues facing us are structural, bureaucratic, administrative. They're not existential in the sense that we're the movement isn't going to just implode or fall apart anytime soon, because there are a lot of very hardworking people who still believe in it. Most of the challenges are people wanting to change things like the staff model and how we spend money, and how we and what programs we focus on and for what reasons, and where our leadership, what part of the world our leadership comes from. These are mostly just structural and bureaucratic problems. They are not matters that should, they are matters that can be fixed. They are not existential matters. So in that way, we're quite lucky.
Thank you, Paudie. That's very encouraging. Marta and Dany?
Yeah, if I may continue after Paudie, I agree with him. I also think that this pandemic will in a way affect the Federation, because we have not had the chance to meet, like Paudie and I, who are in the executive committee, who have been in the executive committee for almost a year now. We've never met the other people in person. We've not traveled with, and of course everything online. Even listening to you, have your experiences and saying that you have met friends, it's something which, of course, meeting friends online, it's something a bit different. It's still very nice and enriching, but it might have some consequences on the motivation and on the relationships we're building now. So this might be a challenge, and also finding new SCMers, young people, new students, new people who in a normal situation would perhaps attend some meetings, travel and join the Federation. Of course, it's much more difficult. Hopefully, with God's help, we will again get on track.
Here. Thank you, Marta. Dany?
I totally agree with what just said, what Paudie said and Marta. And I think a small thing just to add is also to cope with this virtuality and reality. I mean, to be able to transform these last 2-3 years, and because of the COVID, we have a lot of virtual meeting. So I hope that it will help us to make some bonds, to prepare some stuff, and be ready for the reality, for the new reality that we will be having soon after this COVID. Yeah.
Here. The other member of the Constitutional Commission is Yasmina, who is Palestinian. And Marta and she were very excited that for a time they were studying together in Brussels and they could go out and have coffee and get together and, you know, actually meet each other. So this was a special thing, wasn't it, Marta?
Yes, I would say that this is Yasmina's, the friendship with Yasmina is one of the biggest blessings of my involvement with the WSCF.
There you go. That's one.
She's the only person I've been able to meet. Yeah.
Special. Well, friends, any other comments from our Australian participants, the Aussies?
Not a comment. I just want to thank the three of you for giving up the time to speak with us. As has been said several times, the WSCF is about discovering a community, but you can't discover that community if you don't know the other people. So thank you very much for giving up the time so that we might get to know you just a little.
Yes, here. Thank you. Yes, thumbs up. Absolutely.
It's been very nice. Thank you for this opportunity and for organizing this and for inviting us.
So, friends, we better bring it to a close. It's been a joy to hear from each of you, and do thank you very much for sparing the time. And it just adds so many dimensions to our understanding of the Federation, even though we can't meet you in person. Just to hear from you a bit about your lives and why WSCF matters to you and what you see as important in it is wonderful. And also to have that interaction with you so that we from Australia can do that. And as mentioned at the beginning, we hope that this program will be part of a library so people can click on at any time and understand so much more about what the Federation is and why it matters. So God bless everyone and stay safe and stay well. And many thanks everyone for participating. Michael, our next Zoom is, what's our next one? Have you got that to hand? Or our next one, I think, is Dr. Manis Ghosh. So this is a Uniting Church minister whose passion is interfaith work. When he was very young, he was in the Indian SCM. So he's now a minister in Sydney in the Uniting Church, but he's well known for wherever he goes, interfaith friendship. And I work with him on the Ecumenical Council, and I should have realised, of course, he must be an SCMer. I should have known that. So that will be a blessing. But thank you, the three of you, very much for sparing the time. Our love and prayers and solidarity are with you. So thank you. We've closed with the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. God bless.
Bye. God
Bye
bless.
bye. Thank you.